Dear class, later this semester we shall read Kafka's The Trial and confront directly his concern, I was going to say obsession, and perhaps that would be right, with totalitarianism and the horror of living in a system that doesn't have to explain itself and will impose its unexplainability, its refusal to explain upon us the moment we try and decode it and ask it what the meaning is of our destiny under totalitarianism. So, until we reach this majestic work, I just want to introduce you to three of his very short stories, which have a strangeness, which for me is a portal for our course being concerned with the emergence of modernism. And as I've already said to you, this is a completely ridiculous idea. I feel sympathy with those who frame courses and classes. It's not easy to do. The problem with the emergence of the modern as a rubric for us to inspect and think about, for me to create a syllabus from, is that the modern never emerges because it never disappeared. Everything is always modern, both in the casual sense of it belongs to now, and in the strictly academic sense of belonging to the period of modernism, which held sway from the later 19th century through the Second World War and into the mid-century, and in a few rare cases continues to thrive. And it's visibly thriving because of a certain strangeness of conceit, of composition, of idea, and of execution, but a refusal, an inability, perhaps refusal is the wrong word, an inability to take the conventional view of reality seriously, or to believe that the way in which we have framed our understanding of the real, of the world, of events, an inability to accept that corresponds to our actual experience of them. So if you suffer from that as an affliction, you might easily end up in a lunatic asylum being treated for your inability to believe that what you experience corresponds to what is called normality. Or I think you may be more likely to wind up as an artist of some kind, successful or not, it makes no difference, spending your time addressing the lack, the incommensurability, the incommensurateness of your experience with what the world tells you you should understand from it. Dealing with that by, I'm tempted to say, excreting it, to rid your system of the appalling contradiction between what you experience as true and what the world claims about it. You have to be rid of it, and one of the ways of being rid of it is to turn it into art. So I've taught modernism in various forms, in literary forms. I could take us to Picasso and Braque to see what was happening, the disruption of the conventional view in the world of painting, where Picasso is saying, this is not what you have been told a face looks like. But it does look like a face, doesn't it? And in music, where atonal music simply said, I know you have the octave and you're familiar with the octave, and it rings in your brain like a safe refuge, a safe home. But in fact, within that octave are many notes, many mansions, 12 at least to start with, and more if you persevere. So let's not claim to reflect the world as we understand it within the relatively safe confines of the octave. Let's rather examine what goes on between the notes. And so we could be assisting, echoing our literary inspection of modernism in other art forms. But suffice to say that it worked for artists who needed to expel from their system the contradiction of what they saw and what they were told they were seeing, and to expel it in whatever art form was closest. Some of us are word children. I think probably most of us in this class are word children, not necessarily, but to be a word child is a lovely curse. You know it early. You are fascinated by this meta-life, this system which is another way of experiencing or describing experience. These things that enable you to say table and chair instead of just pointing at them, and thereby construct another universe, a parallel universe. After all, the table and the chair are there, but table is not a table, it's the word, and likewise chair. So table and chair, the words, are a parallel universe, and I think as a small child, you're either fascinated by the duality of it, the doubleness of it, or you aren't. Or you treat words much as people treat banknotes or coins. It's a currency. The words enable you to say, can I get a fries? Can I nugget a fries is what the form that I first heard it in, nugget a fries. I thought, what's nugget? Can I get some fries? In the days when we were allowed to call fries fries, and maybe we still are again. Nagata, that is an interesting collection of sounds, but it's also it's an implementation of a need. You want fries, and you can get some either by grabbing some, which in our bartering capitalism will not do. You have to produce something of your own to allow you to grab the fries, and that will be money. But in order to have them delivered to you in front of you at your table, you have to say to somebody, nagata fries. And so your interest as a human being is not so much in the sound, nagata. Some of us are so weirdly alienated from use value, because the use value of nagata is considerable, but we're so alienated from the functionality, the, if you like, instrumentality of language, that instead of hearing a thing that is like a lever that will get fries onto a plate in front of us, as it is, as small children get to ask for the things they want, the food they want, with a word. And the word is a coin. That, of course, it's possible words are very untrustworthy, that people will reject your coinage if you're a small child. And your mother will say, later. Or, no, you've had enough for today. Or whatever it is that your nagata has been pleading for. You don't get it. And so the instrumentality of words has failed. However, there remains the beauty or the strangeness, or just in the sense, if you like, the materiality of the sound. It's still possible to be so estranged from the uses of the world that what fascinates you about nagata fries is the sound nagata. Nagata. So you become interested in the music of words, which, after all, is not their purpose. They're not intended to be musical, nor is the banknote that you bring from your pocket intended to be beautiful. It's not a painting. It is, as it says on the old banknote, that the bearer, the person with the banknote, will be able to exchange this banknote is the £5 note, a wonderful thing that existed when I was a child in England. White and huge, the size of a handkerchief, and written on in beautiful black writing, please pay the bearer the sum of 5 guineas. An interesting coin that belonged to an earlier age, no longer exists, 5 guineas. However, this beautiful thing, it actually was a painting, it was beautiful. The £5 note was so beautiful. It obtained you in exchange for itself the thing you wanted, the fries. But if, as I say, you are sufficiently estranged from the instrumental exchange value operations of the world, instead of thinking, okay, this word is the thing that gets me some fries, you think, what is this word? How strange it is that's making the sound nagata, if you were a man of the Stone Age. Well, it's no good. If you're a man of the Stone Age, there will be nowhere to go and say nagata fries. And yet nagata would have been a sound that would have puzzled him. What is this nagata? Why do people say nagata? And so this estrangement was really the driving force of modernist art, modernist literature, painting, music, composed by people who no longer quite believed the stories that mankind told about themselves and each other. And the disruptive force that brought this in upon us was not just the First World War, it was already happening. There was a sense that towards the end of the imperial age of the 19th century, we were losing our conviction about who we were and what our purpose was on this earth. And then came the First World War, which really troubled us as to our purpose because it was so horrible. And people died in such enormous numbers in the mud, died horrible deaths and what felt like meaningless deaths. Both seemed meaningless to outsiders and to those who were dying. And this left artists thinking, oh my God, we're obliged to say, what is a man? And we're not sure. He's an animal of some dreadful kind. This was no surprise after human history, but still, it was there, dressed up in front of us, like a row of ghosts, straight out of the trenches of the First World War, saying, explain me. And when we read Kafka's short stories, that is our response. Here's our explanation. Here are stories that don't tally with the conventional sense of what life is and how it proceeds. These are stories that disrupt our understanding. These are atonal stories whose discords may please your ear because concord has come to seem such a lie. And discord seems beautiful because it echoes much better the experience we have of being human. And Kafka gave these ideas story, as Schoenberg gave them music, and Picasso, and of course many, many others, gave them visual form. And we recognized them, many of us, and embraced them instead of saying, oh, don't recognize this is horrible, which indeed a lot of people said. Take this away, this is not a painting. Poor Van Gogh suffered most dreadfully from that. He painted beautiful things, but people said, I can't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. What is this? It's a mess. It's repulsive. Take it out of my presence. So that, I think, is what our encounter with Kafka's short stories signifies, is to learn that disruption and discord are what pleases the alienated soul, the estranged soul, the person among us perhaps, or other people, who feel that it echoes better the disruption of life, the destruction of human life that we have witnessed or imagined or understood. And we're very grateful to the artists for giving it a form. At least I hope some of you feel that way about it. Thank you for listening.